When people think of religious pilgrimages, several major examples often come to mind. There's the Hajj in Islam, an obligation for every able Muslim at least once in their life, which brings over 1.5 million people annually to the sacred city of Mecca to perform a series of structured rites, including the circumambulation of the Kaaba. There's also the Kumbh Mela, a massive Hindu gathering held every 3 to 4 years in rotating Indian cities, where millions bathe at the confluence of sacred rivers to purify sins and attain liberation. Or consider the Camino de Santiago, which draws pilgrims across trails in northern Spain, southern France, and Portugal, all converging at the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Galicia. When Buddhist pilgrimages are mentioned, the focus often narrows to a few key sites, particularly in Bodh Gaya, where Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha, is said to have attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. These and 3 other sites tied to the Buddha's life form the classical Buddhist pilgrimage circuit. But Japan holds a lesser-known pilgrimage with deep religious and cultural roots, the Shikoku Henro, a circuit of 88 temples spread across Shikoku Island. Unlike the Hajj, completing this pilgrimage does not require one to be a Buddhist or hold any specific religious belief. It is open to anyone, regardless of their faith or background. This journey is not defined by massive crowds or single destinations. It evolved gradually and was shaped by monks, farmers, travelers, and lay people who found meaning in repeated steps and remote places. This is the Shikoku Ohenro, a pilgrimage that reflects centuries of Japanese Buddhism, built not on one sacred mountain or temple, but around a continuous path. So what is the Shikoku Ohenro? The Shikoku Ohenro is one of the oldest and most iconic spiritual pilgrimages in Japan. It spans the entire circumference of Shikoku, the smallest of Japan's 4 main islands, connecting 88 Buddhist temples, each associated with the great monk Kūkai, also known as Kobodaishi. Together, the route stretches over 1,200 kilometers, roughly 750 miles, and loops through all of Shikoku's 4 prefectures: Tokushima, Kochi, Ehime, and Kagawa. Depending on pace and route, it can take anywhere from 25 to 60 days to complete by foot. Yet, not all pilgrims walk the entire journey. In modern times, some travel by bicycle, others by car or bus, and yet, regardless of how one moves, the pilgrimage retains its deep spiritual character. For many, it is less about distance and more about intention. Whether undertaken as a physical trial, or a form of devotion, or a way to mark personal transformation, the Ohenro remains a ritual of presence. To understand the origins of the Shikoku Ohenro, we must first look deeper into the life of the monk Kūkai, born in 774 Common Era, in what is now Kagawa Prefecture. As a young man, Kūkai left his noble family behind and became a wandering ascetic. He later traveled to Tang Dynasty China, where he studied esoteric Buddhism, a ritual-rich form of Vajrayana Buddhism, also known as Tibetan Buddhism. On his return, he founded the Shingon Buddhism School and established monastic headquarters on Mount Koya in Wakayama Prefecture. Although many of the temples of the Ohenro circuit predate or postdate Kūkai's life, each is considered spiritually linked to him. Legends speak of Kūkai meditating in caves, performing miracles, and consecrating sacred grounds across Shikoku. But it wasn't until centuries later that these scattered sites became a unified path. During the medieval period, mentions of temple visits appear sporadically in monastic records and travelers' notes. These early pilgrims were few, mostly monks or members of the samurai class, and there was no standardized route. It was, however, in the 17th century, during the Edo period, that the pilgrimage began to crystallize into a defined circuit. Several historical currents converged. The newfound peace within the Tokugawa shogunate allowed people to travel without fear of war or unrest. Various infrastructure improvements made roads safer and more accessible. The rise of woodblock printing enabled the production of pilgrimage guidebooks and illustrated maps, and a growing popular devotion to Kūkai made his sacred sites objects of mass veneration. In time, completing all 88 temples became a recognized religious feat. A mandala walked with the body. Communities near temples began to offer shelter, food, and support, and by the 18th century, the Shikoku Ohenro had become an established cultural phenomenon. So how is it done? The modern-day pilgrim, or henro, still follows many of the traditional customs passed down over centuries. Pilgrims wear distinctive attire, a white robe known as a hakui, symbolizing purity and readiness for spiritual death and rebirth. They also wear a wide-brimmed straw hat called a sugegasa, often inscribed with the phrase "dōgyo ninnin," meaning two traveling together, referencing the belief that Kūkai accompanies each pilgrim. They also carry a wooden staff called a kongozue, representing both a walking aid and the spiritual presence of Kūkai. Lastly, they wear a stole, or a wagesa, and carry prayer beads known as juzu. At each temple, the pilgrim performs a series of rites. First, they wash their hands and mouth at the purification basin. For those of you who have been to Japan, you have probably seen people at temples or shrines performing this type of ablution. Next, they ring the temple bell to announce their presence. Then they go to the offering where they light candles and incense. They then offer their prayers, most commonly reciting the Heart Sutra, the Hanya Shingyo, and mantras dedicated to Kūkai. They then deposit a name slip, or an osame fuda, at the altar. This name slip contains a wish or aspiration, such as overcoming a certain illness, having success in an aspect of their lives, or having safe passage from this temple to the next. They then receive a temple stamp, known as a nokyo, and a special book known as a nokyocho, or goshuincho. And this is symbolic to show that the pilgrim has visited a certain temple. This is done at the end of their ritual rites, and they are now ready to move on to the next temple. Pilgrims can travel the route in one go, which may take weeks or completed over the course of years. Accommodations range from traditional inns and temples to modern guest houses and even roadside tents. A unique feature of the Yohenro is the concept known as osettai, the tradition of locals offering food, drink, and shelter to pilgrims. It is seen not as charity, but as a spiritual exchange, a gesture of mutual blessing. So, for example, as a pilgrim is walking, it is not uncommon for a local inhabitant of a village or a community to offer them something like an onigiri, a rice ball, or possibly some water, or offer them a bed to sleep on that evening. The Ohenro pilgrimage is often described as a form of walking meditation, a physical manifestation of spiritual striving. It is not just a journey across space, but a ritual through spiritual time. The route is divided into 4 stages, one in each of Shikoku's prefectures. These mirror the stages of Buddhist awakening. The first is Hoshin, or the awakening of mind, and this is symbolic in the prefecture of Tokushima. Then would be the concept of Shugyo, or discipline and practice, in Kochi. Next would be Bodai, or enlightenment, in Ehime, and lastly, Neihan, or nirvana, in Kagawa. These are not simply arbitrary divisions. The terrain itself echoes the symbolism. Tokushima's temples are clustered and accessible, an invitation to begin the pilgrimage. Kochi's are more remote and mountainous, testing one's endurance and capability. Ehime offers beauty and serenity, while Kagawa, the final stage, calls for reflection and resolution. In this regard, the outer journey mirrors the inner one. For many pilgrims, the most profound moments are not in the temples, but between them, in silence, in solitude, or in the unexpected acts of kindness. The pain of the feet becomes the prayer of the heart, and the simplicity of life on the road peels away illusion, distraction, and ego. So why does this still matter today? In an era defined by speed, noise, and digital distraction, why would anyone choose to walk 1,200 kilometers? Because something essential is missing, or at least that's what most people who undergo the pilgrimage feel. The pilgrimage, in all cultures, answers a hunger modern life cannot feed, the hunger for ritual, for intention, for stillness with movement. The Shikoku Ohenro continues to draw pilgrims from across Japan and increasingly from around the world. Some seek healing after loss, others crave clarity in time of transition. Some come from scholarly or research interests, and others with no clear reason at all, just the intuition that they need to walk. The journey offers no guaranteed transformation, only the conditions for it. Today, technology coexists with the tradition. GPS apps help pilgrims navigate, lodgings can be reserved online, but the spiritual rhythm remains unchanged. Even those who drive the route often report a shift in consciousness. It is not the form, but the mindset that makes the pilgrim. In closing, The Shikoku pilgrimage can probably be best surmised by the statement that is found on the pilgrim's hat: two walking together. It may seem simple or even poetic, but in those 3 words lies the heart of the pilgrimage, the idea that we are never truly alone on the path, that someone walks beside us, in memory, in spirit, in silence. To participate in the Shikoku Henro, for whatever reason the pilgrim have chosen to undertake, is to leave behind the world they know, and to meet themselves by way of a series of steps through land, prayer, and time. And when you finally arrive at Temple 88, the end of the journey, you discover it is only the beginning. To complete the pilgrimage is to return home changed, not because the world is different, but because you are. So, in this light, to walk is to remember.